Have you ever felt completely drained because you said yes one too many times? Maybe it was helping a neighbor with a chore you didn't really have time for, agreeing to a family obligation you didn't want, or even saying yes to something just to avoid disappointing someone. If you're over 60, you might notice that all these yes start adding up, not just to your calendar, but to your stress levels and energy. I know exactly how that feels because I've been there myself. For most of my life, saying yes was almost automatic. If someone asked me for a favor, I would respond with an immediate sure. Even when I was tired or simply didn't want to, I felt obligated. There's this invisible rule many of us grew up with: be helpful, be polite, don't say no. And while that mindset can make you a dependable person, it can also leave you exhausted, frustrated, and sometimes resentful. Then something changed for me after I turned 60. I began to realize that saying no isn't rude or selfish, it's necessary. It's a way to protect your time, your energy, and your mental health. You see, our energy isn't infinite, and as we get older, it becomes more important to choose where we invest it. Saying no allows us to focus on what truly matters, whether that's spending quality time with family, pursuing hobbies, taking care of our health, or simply resting. I started small. The first no I said was to a volunteer activity I had been doing out of obligation rather than joy. I remember feeling a bit guilty, thinking, am I being selfish? But then, instead of anxiety, I felt relief, a strange, light feeling that I hadn't realized I was missing. It was the first time I experienced the freedom that comes with setting boundaries. From there, I noticed other patterns in my life where saying no could actually improve things. For instance, I used to agree to weekend plans I didn't want, just because I didn't want to let friends down. But saying no didn't ruin my friendships, it actually made them healthier. People respected my honesty, and I started spending time with others in ways that felt genuine, not forced. Another important thing I learned is that saying no allows you to say yes to yourself. It sounds simple, but it's a lesson that took me decades to truly understand. Every time I said no to something draining, I could use that energy for something that enriched my life. I could read a book without distraction, take a long walk without worrying about what I had agreed to, or simply enjoy a quiet morning with a cup of tea. These small choices, when added up, dramatically improved my overall well-being. Now, I don't say no to be unhelpful or rude. I say it intentionally, thoughtfully, and respectfully. And here's the key. It doesn't make you less kind or less loving. In fact, it allows you to give more when you do say yes, because your energy isn't depleted by constant obligations. You become more present and more engaged in the things that really matter, whether that's your own hobbies, family, or friends who truly value you. One of the most surprising things about this journey was noticing the mental clarity I gained. Before, my mind was always crowded with a long to-do list of commitments I had agreed to. Even the thought of someone asking me for help could trigger stress. After learning to say no, I found space in my mind. I could think clearly, plan my days thoughtfully, and focus on what I truly wanted to accomplish. It's amazing how much power a single word can have. Of course, saying no isn't always easy. There were moments of doubt, especially early on. I worried about disappointing others, feeling guilty, or breaking routines I had followed for decades. But every time I practiced it, even in small ways, it became easier and more natural. And the more I said no to things that drained me, the more I discovered joy in the things that mattered. And here's something important: saying no after 60 isn't just about freeing your time. It's about reclaiming your life. It's about recognizing that you have earned the right to make choices for yourself without constant justification. It's about understanding that your well-being, happiness, and peace of mind are valid reasons to refuse requests that don't align with your priorities. I'll share a few examples that helped me along the way. I stopped attending events that felt obligatory, even if everyone else expected me to go. I politely declined favors that didn't feel right, without over-explaining. And I set boundaries in my relationships, gently but firmly letting people know what I was willing to take on and what I was not. Each time, I noticed the same thing: respect for my boundaries grew, not just from others, but also within myself. So, If you're over 60 and you've been saying yes to too many things, take a moment to consider the impact. Your time and energy are precious, and every yes you give to something non-essential is a no to yourself. This isn't selfish, it's self-care, it's wisdom, and it's freedom. Now that we've explored the importance of saying no and how it began to change my life, let's move on to the practical steps I took to make it easier and more natural. We'll dive into strategies that helped me set boundaries without guilt, maintain relationships, and actually enjoy the freedom that comes with saying no. And feel that these insights are meaningful. Please type number 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I warmly invite you to do so, and don't forget to turn on the bell, so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos designed to uplift, inform, and inspire. Your support truly means a lot. It's what keeps us going and allows us to continue sharing thoughtful, helpful content just for you. Now, let's continue this journey together. Once I realized the power of saying no, the next challenge was figuring out how to do it without feeling guilty or anxious. It's one thing to understand the concept, but actually practicing it in real life can be tricky, especially when so many of us were taught to always put others first. For me, the first step was recognizing that saying no doesn't need a long explanation. You don't owe anyone a detailed justification for protecting your time and energy. A simple, honest response like, "I'm not able to do that right now," or "I need to focus on something else," works wonders. You'll be surprised at how people respond. Most will respect your honesty rather than resent it. Another key step I learned is to prioritize my own commitments first. For decades, I let other people's agendas dictate my schedule. I would scramble to help with errands, attend every gathering, or volunteer for every task, thinking that my own time could always wait. But after 60, I realized that my priorities mattered just as much, maybe even more. By deciding what truly matters to me each day, I could see more clearly where a yes was genuinely meaningful and where a no was necessary. It gave me a sense of control that I hadn't felt in years. I also started to notice patterns in the types of requests that drained me the most. Sometimes it was repeated favors from people who didn't consider my needs, or obligations that felt like obligations simply because of tradition. Once I recognized these patterns, I could anticipate them and mentally prepare. I'd remind myself, it's okay to say no to this. It's not a reflection of my character, it's a reflection of my boundaries. Over time, that inner dialogue became easier, and my confidence in saying no grew. One of the most liberating parts of this process was the realization that some relationships actually improve when you set boundaries. There were people in my life who expected constant availability, and in the past, I said yes just to keep the peace. But after I started saying no, our interactions became more honest and respectful. I found that people valued my presence more when it was chosen intentionally rather than taken for granted. It was like breathing fresh air into relationships that had become routine or one-sided. I also discovered that saying no creates space for the things I truly enjoy. Instead of filling my calendar with obligations, I could pursue hobbies I had neglected: painting, reading, walking in the park, or even taking a quiet afternoon nap. These moments of self-care and personal fulfillment were transformative. They reminded me that life after 60 is not just about obligations or responsibilities, it's about savoring the time you have and using it in ways that enrich your life. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes saying no triggered guilt, especially when it involved family. I worried about disappointing children or grandchildren, feeling like I was letting them down. But I realized that modeling healthy boundaries is actually a gift to them. It teaches them respect for themselves and for others. By showing that I could say no without fear or shame, I hope to encourage them to do the same in their own lives. Another strategy one embraced was giving myself permission to pause before responding. In the past, I felt pressured to answer immediately, often saying yes reflexively. Now, I tell people, let me check my schedule and get back to you. This small pause gives me the mental space to evaluate whether I truly want to commit. It reduces impulse agreements and allows me to make decisions that align with my well-being. Over time, I noticed an unexpected benefit: my energy and mood improved dramatically. Saying no freed me from the constant stress of overcommitment. I slept better, my focus sharpened, and I felt more enthusiastic about the activities I actually chose to engage in. Life didn't feel like a series of demands, it felt like a series of intentional choices. I also realized that saying no isn't limited to major commitments, it applies to small daily interactions too. I could say no to phone calls when I needed quiet, no to endless scrolling on social media that drained my mood, and no to errands that weren't urgent. These small, everyday boundaries added up to a profound sense of control and peace. Most importantly, I learned to be kind to myself in the process. There were moments when I slipped, when I said yes out of habit or politeness, and that was okay. Setting boundaries is a skill, not a perfection test. Each no I practiced made the next one easier and more natural. It became part of the rhythm of my life, a tool to protect my well-being while still maintaining the relationships and activities I value. So, after embracing these strategies, I found that saying no after 60 isn't about being selfish, it's about reclaiming your life. It's about making conscious choices, focusing your energy where it truly matters, and protecting your mental, emotional, and physical health. It's about turning the years you have into something meaningful, joyful, and intentional. Now that we've explored how to practice saying no and the benefits it brings to your daily life, let's move on to the final part, where we'll look at the long-term transformations I experienced, the unexpected joys, and the life lessons I've learned from giving myself permission to say no without guilt. As I continued practicing the art of saying no, the long-term changes in my life became undeniable. I started noticing that my days felt lighter, not weighed down by obligations I didn't want to fulfill. My mind felt clearer, my mood was steadier, and I found myself smiling more often, not because of external circumstances, but because I had given myself permission to prioritize my own well-being. Life after 60 suddenly felt less like a series of compromises and more like a collection of meaningful choices. One of the most surprising benefits was the deepening of my relationships. It may sound counterintuitive, but saying no actually improved how I connected with others. People respected me more because they saw I wasn't saying yes just to please them. My friends and family realized that when I did commit to something, it was because I genuinely wanted to be there. That authenticity brought a new level of trust and closeness into my interactions. I also began to experience a newfound sense of freedom. With fewer unnecessary commitments, I could say yes to things that truly mattered. I traveled to places I had postponed for years, I spent long afternoons enjoying hobbies I had set aside, and I allowed myself the simple pleasure of doing absolutely nothing when I wanted. Those small moments of choice, once rare, became a daily reminder that life is meant to be lived intentionally, not out of habit or obligation. Another unexpected shift was the boost in my confidence. Every time I said no, I reinforced my belief that my time, energy, and feelings are valid. I realized that I no longer needed validation from everyone around me to feel worthy. That confidence spilled over into other areas of my life. I tried new things, spoke up more in conversations, and embraced opportunities one might have shied away from before. Saying no wasn't a limitation, it was a gateway to saying yes to my own life. I also noticed that my health improved. With fewer stressful obligations, I slept better, had more energy, and felt more motivated to take care of my body. I could enjoy my meals without rushing, take walks without feeling guilty about missing appointments, and dedicate time to exercises that made me feel strong and capable. Saying no didn't just protect my time, it protected my body and mind, too. Perhaps the most profound change was the peace I felt within myself. For years, I had carried a subtle anxiety about disappointing others or not living up to expectations. Saying no allowed me to release that tension. I no longer felt compelled to justify every choice or apologize for prioritizing myself. That peace was liberating. It was as if I had been holding my breath for decades and was finally able to exhale. Now, saying no is part of my daily life, and it no longer feels difficult or uncomfortable. It's become a natural, empowering habit. I encourage anyone watching this, especially those of us in our 60s and beyond, to embrace this practice. Start small, with simple requests or minor obligations. Observe how it feels to honor your own needs and notice the ripple effect it has on your energy, relationships, and overall happiness. Remember, saying no is not selfish, it's an act of self-respect. It's about creating boundaries that allow you to be fully present for the people and activities that truly matter. It's about living a life that reflects your values, your desires, and your well-being. The years after 60 can be some of the richest, most fulfilling of your life, and learning to say no is one of the most powerful tools to make that possible. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever struggled to say no, or have you recently discovered the freedom it brings? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone else to start setting their own boundaries. And if you found this video helpful, please like it and subscribe to the channel for more tips on living a happier, more intentional life after 60. Here's to embracing your choices, protecting your peace, and living your best life at any age. Saying no may be simple, but its impact is profound, and it's never too late to start.